vimos cómo él las estafó a ustedes y también las manipuló y ejerció la violencia de género en su contra también. Luego toda la sociedad que las culpaba o criticaba a ustedes siendo las víctimas. ¿Cómo te sentiste al respecto y qué nos puedes decir sobre la relación entre las estafas románticas y la violencia de género? On Netflix, we saw how he scammed you, manipulated you, and exercised gender violence against you. And society also blame and criticize you. How did you feel about that? And what can you tell us about the relation between romantic scams and gender violence?
Um, well, if it comes to gender, when it comes to romance fraud, the problem is that when a woman is getting scammed, it's her own fault. And she's a gold digger, she's greedy, she wants a good life. But when a man is getting scammed in a romance fraud, there's a whole different aspect of victim blaming. And from all the negative responses I got, it's really difficult to handle with that. But on the other hand, those negative responses made me realize that there is not much awareness about romance fraud, because people might think that I send him 150,000 euros maybe after 2-3 weeks. But unfortunately, this is not how romance fraud works. Like you said, I was mentally abused, fully manipulated for 18 to almost 20 months period of time. And this is maybe the misconception when it comes to romance fraud. And besides that, I always say that fraud doesn't discriminate. It doesn't discriminate in age. It doesn't discriminate in gender. It doesn't discriminate in education. It doesn't discriminate in background of religion, anything. The right fraud will find you at the right place at the right time. And at that point, maybe I was a bit vulnerable, looking for love. And to be honest, that's nothing criminal. There's nothing criminal about it. I mean, we all want love. So yeah, the mental part of the fraud is always the biggest one. I mean, the financial losses, yes, it was a lot, and it might ruin my future for a few years. But I got really back from that. But the emotional part is always the hardest. And we really need to get more awareness for that, because, and we shouldn't blame the victims. We should blame the criminals instead of blaming the victims.
After this traumatic experience, at first I will say it in Spanish.
Yes.
Sí, después de esta experiencia tan traumática, de este doble abuso, como estábamos hablando recién, vos te dedicaste a ayudar a los demás y te convertiste en una experta en prevención de fraudes. ¿Qué nos puedes decir al respecto de tu trabajo? ¿Qué recomendaciones se pueden hacer a las personas para que no sufran estafas? ¿Cómo hay que cuidarse en este momento tan especial en el que la inteligencia artificial y las redes sociales están haciendo todo quizás para esto más difícil? After this traumatic experience of this double abuse, no, you dedicate yourself to helping others and became an expert in fraud prevention. What can you tell us about your work? What do you recommend to people to avoid scams, and how should people take care, especially now with the artificial intelligence and social networks?
Well, thank you so much for this question, because yes, especially after the documentary, I got a sort of stage to create more awareness about this topic. And I'm really proud of the fact that the documentary made people talk more about fraud. And there were some more interventions going on within banks, within police forces. So I'm really happy about that. Since the documentary came out, I started to do a lot of speeches, keynotes, and lectures all around the world, and to make people understand how emotionally and devastating fraud can be. And with this approach, I have already made a lot of companies, organizations change their way into looking to victims. Besides that, I have created a training and developed a training for first responders, but also for banks of different companies on how to deal with fraud victims, because fraud victims need a trauma-informed approach. And with this training, I help people to understand fraud victims more, and I help them to support the victim into a positive change, because if we don't treat them in the right way, they can 9 out of 10 times they go into a negative spiral. So that first connection with a police officer, with a bank employee, is basically a 911 call. And if we are understanding that, this is where we can make a lot of change, because then we also create more empowerment for fraud victims. And this has been very helpful in the past few years. And but besides that, we as a society, we also can make a lot of changes in our behavior. I know, especially with, like you said, AI, it's super, super difficult to understand that maybe it could be a scam, maybe it could be real, because the AI these days is not very blurry anymore, but it's super sharp. And but please do your due diligence. Please do extra research. If you are in doubt, talking to someone, and you are in doubt if it's the real person, please ask a friend, a family member, share your story. And the biggest red flag there is when someone you maybe have never met is asking you for money. Because this is an approach what all fraudsters do. If it's online, if it's offline, face-to-face, in articles or website approaches, investment scams, romance scams, they all start with the grooming process. So they are trying to lure you in, and then the gaslighting starts. So, for example, in romance fraud or investment fraud, the crisis and the grooming, the crisis is, for example, someone is stuck in the border and needs money, or is in the hospital and needs money. And this is what all fraudsters do. They put you under pressure. And the only person who feels that pressure is you, not them. It's not coming from them, but it's you. Because we, as empathetic people, we always want to help someone. And for example, if you are into an investment scam, they always want you to invest now, not yesterday, not tomorrow, now. And this is where the pressure is building up. And when you are not investing, or if you are not paying the hospital bill, then they make it your problem instead of theirs. And this is where the gaslighting comes in. So please, if you are in a relationship, or if you are in a friendship with someone who is pushing you to invest, to pay a bill, to pay for the kids' hospital bills, or anything, please take a few steps back, discuss the situation with a friend, and please say no, because this is 99% a scam. And you can always test it, because if you say no and you take those few steps back, and the fraudster or the person you are talking to is pressuring you, is still asking you for money, then it's a scam. Because with real friends, if they want to borrow money, they can let you think about it because they respect you. But fraudsters don't respect you. And this is the biggest lesson I have learned during my fraud, is that if you are under a lot of pressure, please say no. And if they keep on pressuring you, just please block them, cancel all connections, talk to a friend, talk to a family member, because it's probably a scam.
¿Cuántas clases de estafas y de fraudes podemos hablar? Which different frauds we can talk about?
There are so many different types of frauds. There is, of course, romance fraud, but you can also divide them in different types of fraud, because some of the frauds are starting with romance, with a relationship, and they end up in, for example, an investment scam or sextortion, because a lot of fraudsters in romance fraud are asking you to send sexual pictures, and if you send them, they can
Make it extortion.
Yes, they can extort you with those pictures. So please never send pictures to someone you don't know or you have never met physical. Besides that, we have investment scams. We have, of course, phishing emails. We have fake online web shops, identity theft, and the tactics are vary, but the red flags are most of the time very similar. They create urgency, they create secrecy, there's emotional pressure, or sometimes it's the too good to be true opportunities where you need to be aware of.
And what can you tell us about the justice? ¿Qué nos puedes decir sobre la justicia? Do they help or not help in this case? ¿Ayudan o no ayudan en estos casos?
I always advise people who are victim of a scam, please go to the police, because even if it's only 200 euros or dollars, you can be part of an investment scam or a scam which is coming from a big organization. So every single police report matters. And this is what helped me. I like I said, I'm a fighter. I love to fight, and I love to fight against this horrible criminal act. If the first police officer will not take your report, then please go to the next one. Unfortunately, I also had to go to 3 different police stations to finally file a police report, because in the beginning they didn't take me serious. But now I really hope, with the changes also the police made worldwide, I really hope that they now understand that fraud is a very big concern in our society, and they need to take every single report. So even if a police officer says no, please push it.
Y una recomendación para los que sufrieron un fraude, a recommendation for one who suffered a fraud is this, that ask for help.
Yes. I always advise, please don't stay silent, because if we keep our mouth shut, everything will be in advantage of the fraudsters. And if the victims are not speaking up, or if they don't share their story, if they don't share the story with their friends and family, or if they don't share the story with the police, then we cannot handle this horrible crime. So please don't stay silent. Mention this to friends and people, because if you share your story, it has two big effects. One of them is it already helps you heal. From the moment you start sharing your story, your healing process is starting. And the second one is, if we share our stories more and more, we can create more awareness. And hopefully we can create the decrease in the numbers of fraud.
Y la última pregunta es: ¿cómo fue tu historia estos últimos años desde que te vimos en Netflix intentando recuperar un poco de dinero vendiendo ropa a convertirte hoy en especialista de fraude? Es in the last question. How was your story these last years, between the moment we saw you trying to sell clothes for getting back just a little of the money it was stolen, from today that you're a specialist?
Well, it was a tough one, but no, I'm very. Sometimes I can say that I didn't want this experience to happen, because I think the work I'm doing now is so helpful, not only for me, but it's also very helpful for the society worldwide. And I'm very, very happy that the documentary was so well received by everyone, because and I think especially because I was selling the clothes, because I took a little bit of my money back, but I also in a way defrauded the fraudster. I think this gives a lot of power to people who are or who were in the middle of the same situation. And this is what I wanted to show to the bigger public. Like, hey, you can get it back. You can get your power back, because, and this is why I say, please don't stay silent, because you can get your power back. And the fraudster is just a little ant who's doing a criminal thing. It shouldn't take over your life. And I know how difficult it is. I know how emotionally devastating fraud is. But please, please share your story, speak up, create more awareness to the people around you, and start to get your power back.